Okay, yeah. Good morning. So welcome to day 2. So this is in continuation from yesterday's session. So we have completed our initials application creation and also the properties or the enabling the features of application. So I'm logging into the application, and what I did was I actually created the application, and this might not be the same application that we have seen yesterday. I'm not sure why it is not opening up. Okay, it is taking some time. Okay. So yesterday when I created the application, that was a initial setting, right? So I already have one backup. So what I did was I migrated the backup, and then created the app. So what you see right now might not be the same as what you have seen yesterday, especially in regards to the starting periods and then the type of balance sheet and those details. But yes, this is a completely new application. So I'm going to take you through this application in today's session and see what settings I can demonstrate to you. It's a little slow today. Not sure what is wrong with it, but yeah. Okay. So this is the home screen. So once you create an application, this is how the home screen looks like. So you will have your username, the person that you logged it with. This is usually the users are usually assigned in your identity domain, and also you can actually assign your native users also. But I would not recommend that because these are all managed through. These are all managed through your identity domain. When it's identity domain, it is a cloud operation, right? It all is in the cloud. So you can have your access created in the identity, and then you will be able to see in identity domain. Okay, so these are all different. These are all called cards or clusters. The way that the terminology they used by the Oracle product is, it's called cards or clusters. A card is an individual card, which means it does not have any sub tasks. A cluster is something like a different tabs underneath that. So this is a cluster. The application is a cluster, which was because it has certain other tabs underneath that. So it's called a cluster. Whereas something else, this tools is also a cluster. It has other things. But whereas we click on data is a card. So what will happen is when I click on data, it directly takes me to the data entry, all the activities, all the data screens, right? So this is a card. So whereas the cluster is something, a group of tasks or group of cards or group of artifacts will become a cluster. So today we are going to talk about this specifically the settings cluster, settings card in the application cluster. You can also access it not from the card or cluster. There's something called on the top navigate button. So navigator, we call it the navigator, right? The three lines. So you can click that. It will also show you the same screen, but it's expanded view. So for example, here you have your tools. So all the things have been expanded in here. An application, all things have been expanded in here. So certain things which are not visible in the main screen, in the home screen, dashboard, you can see the full details in here. This access will basically be different between different types of users. When I say different types of users, based on your roles, based on the provisioning that you have been given, you might see this in a different way. So since we are the administrators, as most of you will be administrators usually, you will see the full settings, all the things that are there part of the application as an administrator. But when you log in as a different groups of users, like there are like 4 different security settings. Power user, user. First is viewer. The lowest is viewer. You can only view the data. The second is user. You'll have limited set of activities as a user based on the access that you provide. The third one is called the power user, and then fourth one is called the service administrator. There are 4 different rules, 4 different securities or roles that you can have in the application. We are currently service administrators, so we have seen everything. We can see everything. So under here on the application, you can also go to settings here, or you can come here, click on application, go to settings. Both of these take you to the same screen. The reason I want to talk about settings in today's class is because some of these settings are done at an application level, not at an individual user level. So whatever settings you do in the screen, it will take a little bit of time to open it up, are at an application level. So based on the business functionality or business need, you need to set up these settings one-time settings, and then you don't change this because this is at an application level, right? And if you look at it on the left side, you will see the alias setting. So you can have multiple alias tables. Currently, we are using only default, but if you see here, you can have other alias tables. You can create it. We'll talk about how to create alias tables in a later stage. But yeah, this is an alias table. You can specify what alias table you want to be used. And sorry about this. And this display member label as alias. So in what this will help you is when you open the forms or when you open this smart view things, you'll be able to see different options here, right? In the default display member label. You can just see the alias, or you can see member name colon alias or alias colon member name. It depends upon how you want the users to see the default view. So the settings is the default setting, right? So when you set up this member name dot alias, you'll see the member name, for example, an account number colon the account description. Or you just want to show them only the account description, not the account name, account number. Or you want to show them the account description colon the account number. So something like that. So that is how you want to see. Depending upon what the users want, you can set these settings. These are at a application level settings. Okay. In addition to this, you can all specifically from a forms perspective, you can define your own display setting in the forms. But if you look at your approval process management or other activities, right, there you can see only the member name colon alias. Whatever settings you give here, you will be able to see only those settings in the application side. And the number formatting, right? Some customers want no number formatting. Some they want comma as 1000 separator or dot as 1000 separator, depending upon the region they are in. But most customers use comma. And in decimal separator also, you can specify what you want, dot or space or underscore or whatever the currency setting is. So currency setting, we'll talk about it when we talk about the dimensions. There's something called currency dimension. So whatever setting you give there, you can basically ask the system to use the same setting. That is one option. Okay. So currently we are using comma and dot. The negative sign and negative color, we can either use currency setting or you can say prefixed with a negative sign in the front or suffixed with a negative sign in the end, or put a parenthesis or the currency setting. Or you can actually currency color also. Some people want the colors to be red, the negative color. Some people want it to be black, depending upon what they want to see. It is all aesthetics, right? How you want to see system to see the settings. I'm currently putting it as currency setting. And the next section is approvals. Here we can see display aliases, show not started approval units. This is all in the approval units. When we go to the approval unit section, this section, whatever setting you see here, will play a prominent role there. Because you might see show not started approval units only, or you might show approval units as aliases in approval notification. So these settings will help you in how you want to see the approval flow, how you want to see the approval units in your approval process. And notifications is something you get an email notification. You can say whenever the task is got updated, or whenever something got approved, or when things got finished in the jobs, the rules. You can mention what kind of notifications you would like to be received. Okay. So this is at an application level. In addition to this, individual user can go and set these settings. That is done at a different level, but we'll talk about it a little later. But these settings are at an application level. You can tell the system to send notifications based on these options that you choose here. This is a new feature. Digital assistant settings is a new feature. This helps you. Remember, those chatbots are there, right? Available in most of your banks. When you open your banking websites, you see the chatbot. So these basically digital assistant systems are something like that. It creates a chatbot. You need to give your channel ID and the service name. These are usually provided by your cloud operations. So once you mention them, then a chatbot will open up, and you can basically run the jobs. You need to type with a certain order. There's a certain format on how you want to use those chatbot. You can execute jobs itself from the chatbot. So these digital settings help you to do that. Now coming to the page, so how we want the indentation of members, indent level 0 members only, which means they are stretched on the two little bit on the right side, indenting, or even do not indent. Depends upon how you want the users to see your hierarchy, and expand their hierarchies, how you want the indentation to be. So this will help you. So I stick to most of the standard settings here because I don't want to change everything. But yes, these are some features can be available. And this is one more key thing: number of items on page drop down. So when you open your forms, right? When you open your POVs on the form, you can specify how many line items you would like to see before a search button. Because if assume that one account has 1,000 accounts, it will not show all 1,000 accounts in the drop down. It will start with 100, and then below that, it will have 3 dots, so that it will help you. So in this case, this is a drop down, right? If there are 1,000 items here, you'll have to scroll on all the 1,000 items. So instead of that, you can specify how many items you would like to see in such drop downs. For example, in account dimension, there will be thousands of items. You can say, oh, I want to show only 10, or I want to show only 100. So after that, there will be a search. There will be 3 dots, and then you can search for the remaining actual member name itself. So it will help you more from a user friendliness. So how many you can see in a drop down, and then post that, it will be a search button. So you can search the actual account. Okay. This is that setting. So users, this will give you an aesthetic feeling when you're working with the users. They say, no, I don't want to see all the 100 items, all 1,000 items. I want to reduce that list, the actual list. And then should be able to search. This is that setting. And then again, the date format automatically detect means it will detect from your system settings. What are the system settings are? It will pick up from that system settings. Otherwise, you can specify what date format you want. The attribute dimension date format, and then the partial grid fetch. Partial grid fetch is mostly used when you have huge forms. So in this case, we are telling them if it is more than this 25 rows and 17 columns, then only fetch 25 rows and 17 columns this single time. So the more you scroll up to the right or the more you scroll to the bottom, things will start fetching. The grid will start fetching. But here we are telling them only fetch up to 25 rows and 17 columns if the grid is huge. But if you're getting such a huge forms, which means it will have some performance issues, because depending upon how you design the form might take few seconds to few minutes also. So you should be a little careful when you create huge forms beyond this level of capacity, beyond 25 rows and 17 columns. Okay, but you won't be able to see the whole grid, whole form within the application itself in one single screen. So it will take some time. So that is one setting. And suppress application management options in Smart View. So yeah, stick to all of these standard ones. Enable data load for ad hoc read-only role. Enable consolidation rules. This is very important. Enable consolidation rules logging. So what happens is, assume that you are having certain performance issues, and then this consolidation rules, all the rules are basically written by the product development, and it comes with out-of-the-box product. So what will happen is, you don't know whether the problem is with the consolidation rule or the problem is with the way that you have done something on the application. So how will you know? There's no easy way to find out. So what product development tells you is just enable this. Enable this consolidation rules logging. Then what happens is system will basically log all the things as part of that rule. Whenever you run the rules, consolidation rules, system will log all those things in the backend. And then when you create your feedback, I'll show you how to create a feedback. When you create a feedback, and that feedback goes to the product development, they will be able to see all the logs and then they'll be able to identify if something is really causing an issue. Yes, if something is causing an issue, and they'll be able to help you root cause it. Okay, so this consolidation rules logging, you set it up only when there's an issue, and then product development asks you to do it. Otherwise, if you have knowledgeable enough, if you know what to do, if you want to debug yourself, then enable this, raise a feedback, and you can look at it. Okay, but I don't think you'll be able to have access to the feedback. We call the UDRs or the SARs, right? System activity reports, SAR reports. Product development will have access to it, so they'll be able to see these things. And set number of seconds before rules run in background. So you're telling to run it for 3 minutes in the front end, and then post that. If it's running beyond 3 minutes, let it run in the background. You can also change this setting based on how long you would like to wait in the front end before they go in the background. And this is very important feature. There's a new functionality that is available in the product that is called consolidation by view. So we will talk about it a little later. So what it helps you is it helps you to improve the performance at the cost of the size of the cube. So you basically reduce the size of the cube to increase the performance, or you performance will get deteriorated, but the size of the cube is increased. So there's a giveaway. You need to see what needs to be done, how you want to handle it. So the disable to-date view is usually no. You're not disabling it. You're basically keeping it enabled. If you say disable as yes, which means the to-date calculations will get disabled, which means the to-date view means in view dimension. When we talk about it, I'll come to this point. Okay, just keep me. If I forget it, remind me what this means when I talk about the view dimension. Filter out excluded members in segment drop down. Yeah, if it is, these are all standard features. Don't worry too much about these standard things. If you want more details, you can go to the admin guide and read it. But remember this thing, and some of these number formattings will help you to give aesthetic feeling, and the date format will help you. Otherwise, most of the settings are usually standard. Okay, let's come to system settings. You can say include shared members in cube refresh, refreshing the cube, display users' full names. You don't want to see the full name, you will give only the alias, the short name, because this helps in when you configure your SSO settings, right? In your SSO, usually you will not have the full name. You'll be given one ID kind of thing. So based on that ID, your SSO will be enabled, and then your full name will be there post that. So if you don't want that ID to be displayed, if you want the full name to be displayed, then you can say display users' full names. Then the full name will be displayed. This will help you mostly during the approval process, right? When you are doing the approval process management, it will know who the user has been assigned to the next levels, or even the workflow approval process, workflow, not approval, the journal workflow process. They'll also be able to see who the task was assigned to. If you have an ID, maybe your ID is not very user friendly. Some companies have IDs like all numerics. Some companies have IDs which are a few characters of your first name, few characters of your last name. You might not be able to figure out who that is. Then in that case, you might want to keep the display users' full names, so that it will help you understand who is the user which has been assigned the task. Email character set. Some regional settings are UTF-8. UTF-8 mostly works. No, don't worry about it. Business rule notification. This is basically when a business rule is run, you'll get notified. So this notification is different than these notifications. A job console is when the jobs have been finished, but whereas the business rule is something when you run a business rule, the notification should be given you or not. When if you say yes, then it will tell you what users to be given notified. Click on this plus, then it will be notified to those people only. But these these notifications job console will be going to the everybody based on the settings they do here and based on the settings at the user level they want to enable it. I'll keep it as no for now. Allow drill down on shared members. Usually shared members you cannot drill down, but if you want to allow a drill down to a shared member in ad hoc, you can enable it. This will help mostly during your analysis purpose, right? If you have a shared member and the shared member is a parent of some other member, or the parent of that same account dimension. Let's take an account dimension. A shared member is a parent of maybe let's call net income. Then if you drill down on that shared member of net income, you will not see any drill down. But if you enable this, you will basically go back and see the whole hierarchy of that net income also. So it will be useful to a certain extent, but not enable it, yes, no means no. It's up to you. Minimize approval process emails, which means you'll get only one email with all the approvals, or you'll get one email per approval process. So these are all just a aesthetics and then user friendly kind of thing. Yeah, this is one more thing, important one, because people usually forget. So what happens is when you create an application or when you change certain things, metadata, certain things, system sometimes what it does is it forgets to change this from administrators to all users, right? When you refresh a database, so you don't want all users to be logged in. So basically you would like to ensure the system is up and running before you enable the users to start logging. So this setting will help you to control that at a single place. So when you're doing something on the application, you don't want users to log in, then make this as enable use of application for administrators only. You do your job, you do your settings, change the metadata, refresh the database, ensure that things are working fine. Only then enable the application for all users. Otherwise, users won't be able to log in. They'll get a message. The system is in administration mode. You're not able to log in. Okay. So when you get that message, this is what is causing that. Then you should go and check this message to see if it is enabled for all users or not. And this is as an application owner. Assume that people leave, right? Organizations people come and leave. Then you can go and change the administrators from admin 1 to admin 2 to whatever it is. It will have drop down list. It will have drop down list. I can also give my name. Okay. So when people change, this will give you the name of the application administrator. It's not useful anywhere, but it's just to when somebody leaves, that ID is deleted, then you don't know who is the application owner. So this will tell you who the application owner is. Enable the display of substitution variables. Yes, these are all useful when you run the rules. We'll talk about the settings when you run the rules. Smart view suppression behavior. There's two types of behavior, legacy and standard. Again, all these things are fairly standard ones. If you have need more clarity, you can go to admin guide and then look at it. Okay. Smart view ad hoc behavior, native behavior, or standard behaviors. We'll talk about what these are when you go to smart view. And some report settings. You want to use certain fonts. You have your own fonts. You want to use those own fonts. Then you can go to report setting and enable those fonts. So so those things will actually help you to have your own custom font. But we don't use this much. Okay, it's taking some time here. Yeah, we don't use this setting much, but these settings are at an application level. It will help you fine tune your user experience. So so just be careful on what you do here, and then and do the settings based on how your users want it to be. Your users want the application to be. Okay. So when I click on report settings, today my machine is unfortunately a little slow. Okay. So and then you can manage your fonts. You can add your own font and everything. I'm not going to do those things now because we are good with what font we have. Okay. Then once you do those settings, click on save, and then everything will be saved. Click on save, everything will be saved, and then you get a message called it's saved. The application settings have been saved. So this is at the application settings level. So now let's go to the security aspect of certain things. I'm going to take you through the access control in the navigator again. The easy way is for me to navigate is click on the navigator button. Then I'll know what are all the options available. And then access control is in tools. Otherwise, what I'll have to do is I'll have to remember where access control is. So then I'll have to go here, go to home. I don't know where access control is. I'll click on this. I'll click on this. I'll find out that access control is here. Okay. The easy way for me is because I'm at this, I'll go to navigator. I can just click on access control. When you have a lot of options, it is easy for me to click on navigator button and then come here. And you have very few options, then it makes sense just go to home page and then click on whatever you need. So I can click on access control here. So this is where you set up your groups and then your native users, and then you assign users to the groups. Okay. So this will mostly be useful when you have working with large organizations, and then you have hundreds and thousands of users. So, and then the different roles that they play, different jobs they do. So based on the role that they do, jobs they do, you can create your groups. In this case, you will get control administrators, default access, demo, maintenance, power users. So there's a lot of groups you can create. You can click on the create button, and then it will tell you name of the group. You can say group, and you can give the name of the description. And then a group can also have other groups as part of that list, or it can have the users also. See, in this case, if you want to create a group with all the subgroups, you can do that. You can say console translate that group. This group can be part of that, or you can go to users. You want to assign certain users. So these are all the list of users. You can go and assign the user that you want. Then they'll be part of this group. Okay. Then once you click on save, it will create that group. So that is once you create it, you can add as users to the group during the creation time, or if you want to add users to the group at a later on, then you go here, access button, click this, edit it, and then you can add users to the group. In this case, the demo maintenance, right? They're part of the groups are there. If you want to add more groups, then search this button, select this, click on this arrow, then it will add it to it. There are one more arrow, which means move all items to other list. Since all these groups will be added to this group, which you don't usually want. But sometimes if you want to do that, yes, you can do that. Again, users, I can also add users. Select users, click on this magnifying glass search button, select the user and then add to it. Okay, so that is how you can add users to the group. And there's something called manage users. These users are native users. So we usually don't create users in this format, native users. We create users at a identity domain level. But yes, it can also create users in this case. But yeah, I don't usually create it in this format. Okay. And the other things, assign application roles. For each individual user, you can assign an application role. You can assign roles or unassign roles, and you can also create a role assignment report. So these roles are a little different than those roles that I was earlier speaking, right? Viewer, user, power user, and service administrator. These roles are specific to the application. So if you want a power user, if you want a user to have certain other accesses, which they usually don't get as part of the role that they are playing. For example, a user role might not have everything, but you want certain users to do certain activities beyond their role that they have been assigned by default. And this is where you can go and add those specific roles, application roles, to that user. Okay. But this is done at a very user role level. You can also click on groups, and then you can assign the same application roles to a groups also. not to a user level, it can also assign to a group. So that way, that's easy to manage. So whenever you set up security, I would say create groups and assign users to the groups and assign roles to the groups. That way, when a user leaves, you can remove the user from that group, and then that's done. And then if you want to replicate the same access that specific user has, then you go generate user report, user group report, or user login report, whatever reports, right? You can role assignment report. Then you can see what roles they have been assigned to that user, and then assign the same roles to a different user. So it will basically help you to manage your security more conveniently if you create groups. So in this case, role assignment reported. This is a user role. In addition to the user role, he got drill through access to an application. So this is service administrator. In addition to service administrator, he got service administrator will already have these things, but I don't know why they gave it the setting. But you don't need to do that. Okay, so the bolded ones are the default ones, the standard ones that comes with the application: user, viewer, power user, and service administrator. The remaining bottom ones are very specific to the application level role assignments. Okay. I usually don't give at this level. So see, I just say service administrator, and then that will give all the access. So, but in addition, if you want to give specific other accesses, you do that. You can also generate user login report. These are all useful for your auditing purpose. Who logged in, where they logged in, and then user group report. This user is part of what are all the groups. So you will see this user is part of all these groups. Assume this user left, and then some other user came in this place. They'll say, give me the same access as this guy, because I don't know what access he has. I just need the same access. Then how will you find out? So this is where you need to come, user group report. Come here, see what this user has, what kind of access he has, and then assign the same access to the other user. This manage teams is mostly useful when you create your task manager settings. So we don't play much around with this, but you can also manage teams and then do it for your task manager. Then the task manager users could be different. So and then regular users could be different. The different task manager users you can actually create. Same user will be part of both, but yeah, sometimes you don't want it. But they're all native users, right? So you don't want it to be same. Then you can delete something here and then keep something there. So this is at a application groups and then application users, native users. Now I'm going to talk about the dimensionality aspect of things. So so far we have discussed the settings, the user security. Now I'm going to talk about the security from a dimensional perspective. Again, for me, the easier way to go is click on navigator and dimensions, or if you know what the dimensions are, if you know where they are, then click on your home, and here I need to find out where it is. So because I usually don't go here and find out. So for me, the easy way is click here, dimensions. That's how I do it. I'm clicked on dimensions. I'll let it open. Okay. So here in the FCCS, we basically have two cubes. One is called the console cube. One is called the rates cube. There are two different cubes. Rates cube is mostly used for your currency translation purpose. So if you want to translate, if you want to enter exchange rates, so that this rates cube is where you load all the exchange rates. So if you select all cubes, the dimensions associated with all the cubes will be displayed. If you select the specific cube, let me select rates for now. So if I select rates, in the rates, if you look at here, right, the account dimension members have been reduced, which means only the exchange rate specific accounts are part of this cube. All the remaining members of this dimension are not part of this cube. Okay, so and then there are only limited number of dimensions here: account, currency, entity, from currency, period, scenario, view. Yes. So whatever is required from a data exchange rate loading perspective is what is available in this rates cube. So don't worry about these two HSV metric and status. These are all used internally by the product. We don't touch them. We don't play around with them. We just leave them aside. So don't worry about these two. We don't manage them also. See, what we manage is from account to years. Okay. So if you look at account, they're all exchange rate related accounts. So all the exchange rates, like average rate, ending rate, will be part of this exchange rate, average and ending rate. Some system members are there. Let's not touch the system members. Okay. And similarly, the currency is also linked to the exchange rate, because you need to tell what currencies you need. So it will have the input currencies and the reporting currencies. And so what are the input currencies? What are the reporting currencies? Okay. And entity. What entities? So currencies are also part of certain entity. And from currency. So you can say from what currency to what currency. So the from currency is again system defined. You don't touch, you don't add anything. What you do is you just go to currency and add it, and the system will define this from currencies. And guys, remember, these currencies will be enabled only if it is a multi-currency application. And that is where we discussed yesterday, right? In one of the system enabling features. If it's a multi-currency, only all this will come into play. Otherwise, you will not see any of this from currency option at all. And then you specify your exchange rates based on the period, scenario, years, based on the what period it is, what year it is, what kind of scenario it is, and then the view. Okay, let me go to the console cube. So that is our main cube where we usually play around with it. Okay. So whenever I select this cube, right, or I can say all cubes also, doesn't matter. So whenever I select that cube, the dimension level, I can click on that dimension. Then there's a pencil mark next to the dimension. The edit dimension option is there. There is something called apply security feature is there. Correct. So the apply security means usually you're applying security at a account level. So one option is actually enabled. So I don't want to change that. So similarly, if you go to other dimensions, consolidation, apply security. So what you do is, from a security perspective, there are basically 4 dimensions which are usually available. Okay, I'll talk about what those 4 dimensions are. From a security perspective, you usually use those 4 dimensions and set up the security. Okay, that is one way. And in addition to that, let me go back to the account dimension one more time. You can actually set up a security once you enable the security at that level at an individual member wise. For example, let's say this balance sheet approach. I can assign access to that. So when I say assign access, the users are the groups that I earlier created in the access control. Those are the users and groups I can give access to. And all the users are part of the list here. These users will also be your identity domain users also. It could be your identity domain users, not just native users. And then based on the user, you can specify different types of access: read access, write access, and no access. And then you can also specify read access to this member only, or children of this member, or children and including this member, or all the descendants excluding that member, or all the descendants including this member. So there are 5 options that you can specify on how you want to segregate or specify your security. So based on this, you can give access to a specific user. If you don't want to do it at a user level, you can go to groups. I want to give it a group level. I can same thing, same options will be available. I can assign access to that member or children or descendants for that group level. And then when I click on add, it will be added. Click on add, and then close it. Here I can see the groups. Default access is read only. I'm going to delete that. I don't want to set an unnecessary security at this point. Okay. So, so again, you need to go to users tab or the groups tab, depending upon what kind of security you want to queue. Once you give that security, you can save it and you can mark it as closed, which will basically save that security. So in this case, there's already some kind of security enabled at a exchange rate system members. That's the default security available. Let's see what that is. You can click on that view, and then you will see the default access is read. For a users called default access group, they give it a read-only access, which means all the access users will only have a read-only access to this, to the members, including the descendants inclusive. If you want to edit it, select that security, click on edit it, and then you can change it, whatever access you want. You can select them and click on change it, then click on set, then things will get changed. Okay. Don't want to change anything at this point. So this is how you assign a security. Just hold on 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. By default, there will be 4 dimensions. Earlier I mentioned that there are 4 dimensions, which is scenario, which is here scenario, entity, account, and data source. These are the 4 dimensions which are mandatory. I mean, you need to at least have 1 dimension out of those 4 to assign the security. Okay, so there are 4 dimensions which are used for security purpose, which is a scenario, entity, account, and data source. So data source is one of the members. You can click here and apply security. And apply security. These 4 dimensions. See, you can also see security, apply security for other dimensions also. Like for example, consolidation. Consolidation is not part of this SAN one. We can apply security there also, but it's not useful anywhere. The only the dimensions that are useful is scenario, entity, account, and data source. Scenario, as usually everybody knows, right? We'll talk about one by one. Scenarios, there are different scenarios. You can actually create many scenarios you want, and then you want security to be assigned at a scenario level. From a consolidation perspective, you usually have actual scenario, but if you want to use the same console application for other scenarios like budgeting or forecasting or some rolling forecast, yeah, you can have these scenarios created, and each of these scenarios you can assign security. So say which user should be part of this. For example, like let's say actual security, then assign access to it. You can assign access to it. Okay, only this specific groups of users needs to be given access to the actual scenario. So scenario is very useful in that way. Scenario, entity, as you know, maybe we don't want all the users to be part of all the entities. Certain users belong to the specific region or specific jurisdiction, specific geographic location, so specific department. Then you assign users only for those specific departments and specific entities. Assign them specific access. Again, you click on this access control, assign access, and then add assign access. So there are 4 different things assigned at a scenario, account, data source, and entity. And data source also, you have multiple data sources. Most of them are here. The data sources, the data input, manage data, supplemental data, other data general input. Security is not here. Let me see what security. You can actually add columns. You can actually add all these things. So you don't see security in this option because we did not assign any security at that level. You want to go here. Maybe we did not enable. See, you don't see security option here because the data source level, we have not enabled it. When you enable it, you'll be able to see the security at that level. I'm not going to enable it. I want you guys to do that as part of your lab. I want to see what options we'll get to see. when you enable the security. In this case, I have not enabled it. I want you guys to test it. Okay, so that is part of your lab to see how you can test the scenario, entity, account, and data source level security. Okay. So this is another way of restricting the access to the users. So far we have shown you a couple of ways, right? One is at a dimension level security. One is at a security based on the role itself, the user, viewer, power user, and administrator. And then you can actually assign access control at an individual application level role also, and also at individual dimension level or members level roles also. So security is very robust in SCCS, but don't compare it with HFM. HFM security is little different. SCCS security is little different. So stick to what is there in SCCS, and then create groups. My suggestion is create groups, assign users to those groups. That way manage security at a group level, not at individual user level, to make it more convenient, more maintenance free, or less maintenance. But if you do it at a user level, it's a big, huge maintenance. If you do it at a group level, it's very less maintenance. Okay, that is on the security. Okay, so let's now talk about the dimensions other than account and movement. We'll talk about one by one. Let me skip account. I'll go to consolidation. In the consolidation dimension, you have different members, and depending upon the application feature that you have enabled yesterday in yesterday's class, you'll be able to see certain members here, or you might not be able to see. So remember this yesterday, this option called translated to currency input. If you enable that, only then you'll be able to see. And in this parent input, if you enable that, only then you'll be able to see. Contribution input. If you enable that, you'll be able to see that member. So certain members in this are linked on what features you have enabled based on our yesterday's class. You'll be able to see those settings. Okay. This consolidation dimension, you usually don't add any members to it. This is a system out of the box member, out of the box structure. It is used for your consolidation elimination purpose. Right. So I don't usually touch this. I leave it as it is. Whatever features I have enabled, based on those features, certain members are used. And you enter your data usually at an entity input level. Whenever you enter the data entity input level. And the system uses the other members to calculate your eliminations, proportions, and then to the contribution total. And when you look at your data, when in the data grids or data forms, you basically use your entity total member. You don't use your contribution total just because it's a parent member. Don't use the contribution total as your parent. The contribution total is what is getting contributed to my parent. It is not what is there in that entity. So usually you choose your entity total member to see the balances for that specific entity. And the remaining members are all used for contributing or eliminating or proportioning. At that entity level, if you want to see how much is eliminated, use your elimination member. How much is actually contributed, use your contribution total. So, but at entity level, use entity total to tell your what is the balance for that entity. So this is a standard one. I don't usually touch it, and I don't recommend touching this. Let it be like this. Based on what features you have enabled, members will be created in this. Now coming to currency. So when you say currency, the input currencies and reporting currencies. So I cannot add new currencies. If you want to add new currencies, right? Click on this edit button, or click on add button, not edit, add currency. Then add currency. The currencies are actually available here. So all the currencies are actually available. Usually all the currencies are available. You don't need to worry about it. So you just select it, and then remember these settings we have seen in the settings, right? Application settings. Now it will ask you, okay, this currency, what setting you want to use? Comma or dot or none. There's 1000 separator. If you don't use default setting, it will just use some default setting with the. I don't recommend using the default setting because it will not be in your control. But each form will look differently, and I want you guys to set these settings either at a currency level or at a application settings level. And decimal separator, dot or comma. Let me just use comma here, this here. Negative sign, parenthesis or suffix or this one, prefixed minus. Some people like to use negative color, red. Depending upon how your business wants it, set this property. Don't stay. See, these options are available. Data storage option, multiple options are available. But not all the options are used for SCCS. So remember, this is an SBS cube. In SBS cube, based on SBS settings, all these features are available at a data storage level. But just because they're available, don't keep on start using it. There are certain best practices, certain guidelines. Go to the admin guide, go look at the admin guide, and then go through it. You should always say never share. That is the, keep in mind, don't bring your SBS knowledge to SCCS. SCCS has its own limitations on what SBS features to use. So stick to the what features are need to be used in SCCS. So data storage, always use never share at a level 0 member. I will talk about when to use dynamic calc and when to use label only. But as a default rule of thumb, use never share for all level 0 members. 2-pass calc is not required. Again, there's another setting when you use these members for calculation purpose. But let's leave it like that. Data type is currency, or usually it's currency, right? Or you can leave it unspecified also. It doesn't make any difference. And then click on save. You can also, one more option is called reporting currency. If you check this reporting currency, you can actually, system will create a member. Let me save it. System will create this member in the reporting currency itself. I'm using Indian rupees. Once I said there are two groups, right? Input currencies and reporting currencies. So when you click on this reporting currency option enabled, the system will create a member in the reporting currency also. Today my system is a little slow, not sure, but yeah. See, the INR is reporting currency is created. Here it created as a store member. We did not do anything, did not touch anything, right? But here we created as a never share member. So whenever we create never share, system define the reporting currency based on what it needs. So that is what the product setting is. That is how the products are done. So we'll not go and add a new reporting currency itself. We'll make an input currency as a reporting currency. You cannot go and add any number. So you cannot add anything. There's no add buttons here. The only bad button you have is add currency. Once you add it, you have to refresh the database. I'm not going to refresh it now. It's going to take some time. But this is how you add currencies. So what I have shown you is, I can go and edit it again. So certain properties, once it's added, the certain properties you cannot see anymore. Right here. So go to the other tabs, the currency tab. Here you can see. If you want to change this predefined symbol to something else, you can go and change it, whatever you want, or all predefined, right? You can change it. The scaling is, if I assume that it is the scale of 1 means if the value is 1 rupee, it will show 1 rupee. Scale of 10 means if it is a value of 10 rupees, it will show you as 1. The scale of 1000 is if it is 1000 rupees, it will show it as 1. So I don't usually change that unless it's a requirement from your specific business. You go and modify those scale properly. Precision is another important thing. I would like to see how many levels of precision I need. It has up to 10 different decimal places. 10 different decimal places, right? You can see what decimal places you want, up to 10 decimal places. Or you can say, I only want to see 2 decimal places. Or you might just say, I don't want to touch it anymore. I'll manage it when the value comes in my forms. You can actually leave it. Triangulation currency, leave it as none. Don't play around with it. If you want to triangulate to any specific other currency, you can do it or leave it. The remaining settings are here. And then UDA. UDAs are mostly used when you write your rules. So you can create your own UDA and assign that UDA to this application, and then use that UDA for retrieving or for playing around in your rules. Okay. So I'm not going to create anything, but this is how you can create it. Click on plus button, create a UDA, and save it. And then once it is saved, it will come onto the left side. Then add that UDA, and then you can use those UDAs to write your rules or for some other purposes. Member formula. We'll talk about member formula in different members, different dimension, but not here. Okay. So that is on the currency. Okay. Now data source. Data source, you can add as many data sources as you want, but there are certain restrictions, certain guidelines. I would not say restrictions, certain guidelines given with the product development. Based on those guidelines, you can add your data source. Usually the data source, what we have is enough for most customers. And remember in yesterday's session, there's an option called enable other data source member, right? So that means this member will get created. Other data source member will get created. If we don't enable that, the other data source member will not get created. So most of the data input, managed data, supplemental data, journal input. So those are the 4 members that are comes by default. And other data will come based on the enable options that you choose at an application level, application creation level. Data input is used to input, when you use input data into the application, you use data input. Managed data, when you load data through data management. So there's no hard cut rule saying that use these members only during this time. But the way that their system has been designed is you can use any of these members. But it makes sense to use FCCS managed data when data is getting loaded to data management. It makes sense to use data input when users are loading data directly into the forms within the application into data input. It makes sense if you want to use other type of data sources. Maybe you are not GL systems, not through your GL, maybe some other data, fixed asset data, some other data. You can use other data. And journal input is system uses this member to load journals. All the journals will be loaded into this journal input data source member. You cannot load it in any other way. Journal input is used only to load through journals. If you want to load it manually through SmartView, it won't accept it. It throws an error message. But you can use data source, data input, managed data, and other data to load data. Similarly, supplemental data is used to load the supplemental data. When you enable that option called supplemental data, this number will come into here, picture here. And when you generate all of your data, look at the total data source number. When you view data, look at total data source. That will have the data that you have inputted and adjusted. Adjusted means journal input. Input and adjusted. It will also have some eliminations that happen as part of your intercompany eliminations or partner eliminations as part of consolidation process. Or some data could be no data source, no data source, just blindly using that member. Okay. So always use total data source when you retrieve your data forms to see the correct data set. Don't touch about, I'm not worried about system types. They're all internally used. I will not use it. I will not touch it. Okay. Entity. Again, I can create my own entities, my groups, however I want it. Okay, I can group them, and then individual entity will have its own currency assigned to it. So it has its own currency. Whatever currency you created there, they'll show up here. Only those currencies. What are the input currencies here? I had INR, so INR came up here. So you can specify what is the currency for that application. Okay, and always keep these two as ignore, which means there's certain guidelines, right? All the options are available. Don't just use it. There's certain guidelines in the admin guide. Follow the admin guide. Look at the admin guide. say that these always for entities use this plan type as ignore for both rates and cubes, rates and console cubes. Okay, and in the description, alias, currency, data storage, I told you that by default stick to never share. Data type doesn't matter, unspecified doesn't matter, remaining all keep it as it is. And then attributes here, right? We can say this if it is an intercompany entity or not. This again, this will drive your intercompany eliminations. There's an intercompany attribute available by default. You can choose it, you can remove it. If you remove it, not intercompany anymore. You select it, it's an intercompany. Okay, so you can specify whether the entity is intercompany or not. And the UDS, you don't have any UDS. UDS are mostly used to filter out certain members from your dimensions or which are required for your rules purpose. That's when you use UDS. Otherwise, we don't touch UDS much. The little advanced concepts when writing the rules. We'll speak about it when we come to the rules section. Member formula. Member formulas are usually written when the data storage is dynamic calc. Otherwise, you don't touch member formulas. Okay. So I'm not going to touch that right now. So if you want to add new entity, select this member or select this parent member, then add as a child or add as a sibling, depending upon what we need. Or if you want to move this member from this place to another place, use cut and paste. When you cut it, this paste option will be enabled. Currently, the paste option is disabled. When you cut it, the paste option will be enabled, and then you can paste it into different places. Or you can assign security access to it, depending upon what current security is not there. Then again go on security, assign security to it, and then add to it. You can also see one more option called show usage, which means it will tell you where this member is used, in which forms. It will tell you these are all the forms where that member is used. This will help you to for certain auditing or debugging purpose sometimes. Just a very user-friendly feature where it is used. Okay, and then you want to show the ancestors, certain other things are there, yeah, but otherwise everything's pretty much standard. Then click on refresh database. If you modify anything, click on refresh database. Okay, and the performance settings, no, I will not talk about it here now, a little later. Next comes to from currency, we already spoke, intercompany. Intercompany is again a system derived, we'll not go and touch it. Based on whether the company, whether the entity you marked as intercompany or not, those entities will be part of here. So you don't manually go and add it. You cannot go and manually add it here. This is driven based on your entity dimension setting, and then that attribute that you have enabled, whether the intercompany is an yes or no. Based on that, the dimension is populated, the intercompany. I'll come to movement a little later tomorrow. Multi-gap. I think I spoke about this multi-gap yesterday. So depending upon this type of application creation that you have done, this is a multi-gap with adjustments. Okay, this is actually created by default. If you want to add more multi-gap members, you can actually add it. See here, enable system enabled you to add child or sibling, depending upon what you need. You can basically play around with this hierarchy. This is more like a custom dimension, right? So based on what we discussed yesterday, it's a custom dimension. And you can add that as many members as you need. When I add a member, when I add a sibling, then the same options will be shown. Whatever option that we have in other dimensions, same options will be shown. But always use data storage as never share, UDA member formula. The same things will show up. But this multi-gap is not used for your rates, so that's why it is disabled. You cannot go and modify it and enable it. Okay. Yes, and then this console property, you have addition, subtraction. I will come to this in the account dimension, discuss about account dimension, because that is where you will be able to understand it much better than rather than when I speak here. Next is period out of the box dimension. Standard features depending upon, remember yesterday we enabled this HYTD. Based on the HYTD, these options will come into picture. This HY members will come into play. Otherwise, we'll have only Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. It is automatically generated. You don't need to touch this. Prod is a custom dimension, just like multi-gap. So it's a custom dimension. You can add as many products as you want. Okay, if you want to add new television type, click on add child. The member properties are pretty much the same. Okay, then add to it. Scenario, if you want to add more scenarios, you can add it here. You can add you can group different scenarios into one parent scenario, or you can add all level 0 scenarios. Okay, add sibling. View, this is what I was talking about, right? That setting in the earlier. Here, we have YTD, HYTD, QTD, and YTD input. If for people who are coming in from HFM, you can load balances in both periodic and YTD. But here, FCCS is a periodic application. You are supposed to load balances only in periodic. If you want to load YTD data, don't use YTD member. Use YTD input member. That is why this YTD input member came to. So you need input balances in YTD. Use this YTD input, and system will calculate the periodic based on that, and then it will calculate the remaining HYTD and QTD. So this YTD, HYTD, and QTD are derived values. All derived values. You can only input data into periodic and FCCS YTD input. Okay, there's only 2 members. Now I'm going to show you some more members which are linked to my application settings. Not application, the setting that I shown you in the initial screen, right? These underscore rule members. So this is a little advanced concept. I'll talk about it little later, not right now. But these members are used based on the settings that you have enabled in your based on the option that you have enabled in your application settings. I'll take you there one more time in the end. So this YTD, HYTD, and QTD. These 3 are derived values. If not, so nothing is there. So you cannot modify anything. These are all derived values. System uses these members and derives them. The periodic and YTD input are what you usually use to input the data. And the years that you have created, all the years will be shown here. I have created from F18 to 28. Okay, but if you want to add more years, yes, I can add more years. Add years. I can do that. I can add more years. And add say yes, or you can, what year you want to add, FY21, 29, then you can keep on adding it. But you cannot add a year in the future, in the past. So I would say add years in the future. Don't add years in the past. Doesn't make any sense. Then add the future years, especially when the application is being used. Add only the future years. If you add past years, your data might get corrupted. There's a chance of data getting corrupted. Only add the future years. Okay, let me go back to view. These 2 dimensions are internal dimensions. I'm not going to touch it. We don't play around with those dimensions. So from view dimension, I was talking about YTD, HYTD, and QTD. Let me go back to home, my application settings. And then there's an option called to date. Right, to date means YTD, which means year to date. HYTD, half year to date. QTD, quarter to date. Right, the to date view calculations. In the view dimension, we have how many? Periodic, HYTD, QTD, and YTD. So the YTD, so year to date view calculations, quarter to date view calculations, half year to date view calculations. You are saying disable those view calculations, means you don't want data to be populating into those view members. the system calculates, you are telling them don't use it. If say disable, it means system will not calculate it. So which means that is when this underscore rule members will come into picture in the view dimension. That is when this underscore rule members will come into picture. But yes, to do that, there is a separate set of rules you need to run. Currently, our system is not enabled to do that. It can only be done by product development. You need to enable that from a backend. So we don't enable it here. When you enable that, what happens is there is something called consolidate rule. Right? Consolidate rule and then translate rule. These rules are no longer applicable when you enable that option. Disable write to date, disable to date view calculations. Then you'll have new set of rules, something called consolidate by view, translate by view. Then you run only those rules. Okay. If you run these rules, system will again calculate all the view members. So again, it's going to create a nuisance. So these are all advanced features from a performance perspective, guys. I will not talk too much about it, but yes, from a our day-to-day activities purpose, keep that as no. Disable by to date members, keep it as no. We'll talk about advanced features probably very late in the game, very late in the sessions. Okay, so that is all I have for today. Any questions? People can ask me questions.
Thank you, Veera. Rajiv this side.
Yes.
So, yeah, I have a couple of questions here. So, firstly, in the dimensions, right, the custom dimensions wherein we are adding the members, is there an option of going for a bulk upload? Like I can see add as a child, add as a sibling, but that is one elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, is there an option wherein we can go for a bulk upload?
Yes.
Like bulk upload, okay.
Not upload, bulk loading. I will not call it as upload.
Bulk loading. Okay.
Bulk creation. I would say bulk creation.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. I would say bulk creation. Yes, there's an option. I will talk about it. I'll answer it. Yeah. Any other questions?
And also regarding the logging, right? You had mentioned that the rule logging is kept no. So is there a best practice for that? Like
no.
It should be turned off. No.
Best practice should be no, because when you add the rules logging, you remember in a cloud-based environment, you have limited space.
Okay.
The customers will buy 150 GB.
Okay.
Right.
So there is an overhead to that.
It's an overhead. Keeps on adding, right? So the data GB gets increased. So you'll say your capacity is increased, pay more, or clear the data.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah.
Got
So best practice is don't log the consolidation rules unless there's a real issue that you want to debug. But you cannot debug all by yourself. You definitely need product support inputs. So you have to do that in coordination, in suggestion from product support.
Got it. Got it. And one last question regarding the notification, like the email notifications that you spoke in the first half of the this session. Is there a configuration of the SMTP servers, the mail servers that we'll have to do, or is it taken care by the cloud itself?
When you do your SSO configuration, the SSO configuration, it is not done at an application level. It is done at an identity domain level. When it's identity domain, it is at a my services in the cloud, right? In the cloud operation, there's SSO configuration. So all of those things are there in the admin guide. You can just go. I think it's somewhere here. SSO. Maybe not here. There's a separate document for that. Okay. You can configure them in the SSO. So once you configure them in SSO, the email IDs, everything will be given. It will be pulled from your SSO SMTP configuration settings.
Got it. Got it.
But if you create a user, native user, then you will not have that option. Yeah, you have to create SSO.
I see. Got it. So there has to be an active directory. linked
Active
to it.
Directory, correct.
LinkedIn. Okay, got it. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you, Viru.
I'll come to the smart view. The question that you asked, how to add bulk adding the members. I'll tell you a little later.
Yes. Okay, no problem. Sure.
Yeah. Any other questions from anybody?
Data source dimension.
Hmm.
Can you please open it? Their intercompany eliminations, total elimination it is showing. So elimination, all intercompany elimination, we will show separately when we are loading data or inputting data through FDM or SmartView.
No, intercompany elimination member is internally calculated. You don't load data into intercompany eliminations. You don't load any elimination data, right? Eliminations are happening
Yes.
as part of your consolidation process. So what system does is, when you have such kind of elimination, it populates those values into those intercompany eliminations member.
Okay.
This is just to segregate. System is basically allowing the rules to see, okay, how much data has been
Reporting
eliminated.
purpose.
Hmm.
For reporting purpose. Okay.
For reporting or for
But we
consolidation
will,
also. Hmm.
yeah, we will load data only in the data input, journal input, or
You don't load into
manage
journal input.
data.
You load journals. When you load journals, system will use this journal input member. You usually use data input, manage data.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like journal means we'll use journal functionality. Yeah.
Right, correct. And then other data. Other data, if you have enabled it, other data will come. If you not enabled it, other data won't be there. But usually, how many types of data are you loading? Right? You don't load 100 different types of data, right? Usually, whatever this system has given you, it's usually sufficient. Right? And supplemental data again, it has its own member. So all supplemental data uses this member. So that's not a problem. And then you're inputting data from your GL systems. So which means you are using managed data, something that you input directly in the application using data input. But anything that starts with FCCS, guys, is all out of the box members. But if you want to add your own data source, you can add it. You can add this you can add members here. Nobody is stopping you. You can add a sibling. You can add it. So some customers, what they do is, see, general ledger data will come into your one of these data sources, right? Data input or managed data. General ledger data. For example, there might be some. See, this has limited number of custom dimensions, 4 custom dimensions, right? HFM has limited number of custom dimensions. Assume that certain data sets need 5 custom dimensions. How will you manage it? So that is when you need to, when you design your architecture, this architecture rules comes into play, right? When you design your application, you need to have that idea on, can I use this data source dimension and use it as a fifth custom dimension, without using these members, without using the data input or managed data. So that is when you can actually use this as one of your 5th dimension, but that requires little bit of thinking on how the data is. It's more of an architect role. Your architect needs to see how the data is, what is the data granularity, is it going to overlap with other data, and you could, in certain instances, use this as your 5th dimension. But I would not recommend that. But there's an option to do that. Okay.
So Hari, on the same dimension, I have a question. See, on that, can you expand the total elimination part? Okay, so this partner elimination member is something got enabled because we have enabled the partner elimination feature in the at the time of creating the application, correct?
Correct.
So how does this particular member will work? I mean, what is the purpose? What do you mean by the partner elimination? Intercompany elimination is something we can track the intercompany data over here in this intercompany elimination member of data source dimension. But what is this partner elimination, Viru?
see the we'll come to those things little later, because partner elimination, these members are, if understand these members are there, how do you use it, what to do, we'll come to the next few concepts. We'll come to that
fine.
when you talk about ownership management, when you talk about EPU, equity pickup, then all these things will come into picture. Also remember, there's one more dimension called consolidation, which also has elimination member, right?
Correct. Yeah, below 2 entity total.
There's an elimination member in the contribution also.
Yes.
Right? This is also used for certain eliminations, intercompany eliminations, and your ownership eliminations, minority interest eliminations. This is also used.
Okay.
Right. So these are all product defined it to certain to perform certain calculations. Okay.
Yeah.
We can understand it to an extent when we can debug it to an extent, but from a day-to-day perspective, they're not much use for you. If you want to see how the functionality works, configure them and start using them. If you want to see why it is like this, why it is that, then you are basically questioning the product. Why is the elimination here and also elimination in data source? Maybe they felt that need to add elimination members here. So we'll speak about them. We'll speak to certain members when we talk about the specific use cases, the functionalities.
Okay. And can you please go back to the consolidation dimension once? Yeah. Expand that completely. So here, if my understanding is correct, I can see the data for a base level entity till entity total itself. Other than that, I can't see the data. Below any member, above any member, if I'm selecting at a base level entity, I cannot view the data, correct?
You can view the data. You can also view the data. Let me show you.
No, we can't view the data, I believe, because in the valid intersection, there is a condition.
Once it opens up.
Your application is slow today, Hero.
Don't know why. I have this data loaded.
But is that the entity is a base entity?
Yeah, that's why I'm able to enter data, right?
Okay. Yeah. So we can see the data till contribution.
At the parent currency, you can see it, right?
Exactly. So there is a intersection between the currency dimension, consolidation dimension, and the entity.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. That is where the functionality you are touching the good points. So that is where all these functionality will come into play. All this functionality at the parent total level. Now that's why I created this. I know these questions will come. that is why I created this lab and then kept it ready.
Okay. So if I want to see my translated data or else contribution data for a base level entity, I need to select the parent currency from the currency dimension. If it is in the entity currency, I can't see the data for a base level entity.
Because entity total is where you can see the data in entity currency. So the entity currency is entity total.
Exactly. Entity total. Yeah.
Right.
So
yes, but you are touching all good points. Yeah. That is. I'm happy that you are asking such questions.
Okay, thanks. And also, likewise, we can see the elimination also from the consolidation dimension. I'm just thinking in this direction. In the consolidation dimension, there is elimination member, right? So this elimination is something. Yeah, this elimination is something happen at a parent level. If we want to see the eliminated data for a particular base level entity, we have to select the parent currency. Because if you are selecting the entity currency, that entity currency will not be valid for a elimination, right? So we have to select
Yes, I'll tell you about certain use cases where you can see in both. When the currencies are same, when the parent currency is same as the entity currency, certain use cases are there. But at a high level, yes, you are right.
Okay. Because in again back to HFM, just not to confuse anyone over here. because there is everything. This is something is managed in one single dimension, value dimension. But in FCCS, we have to combine the entity, consolidation, and currency dimension. Then only we can form a clear-cut POV combination. Otherwise, it will go wrong. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. And okay, fine. That's all from my end. I think I have got the points. Thanks, Viru. Thanks for clarifying. And over to other guys. If you have anything, please unmute yourself and you can ask your questions on the topic. I'm done.
Any more questions?